Okay, I'm turning on the recording button. Okay. Hi, Claudia.
Okay.
All right, we entered into a discussion here, and I just want to rewind it a little bit, just to record it. We had been planning on talking about the Vril and Tool societies and what is the Black Sun and what are we looking at. But we just jumped right into something, and we jumped right into speaking about artificial intelligence and how it's affecting people, and I just wanted to get it recorded.
Okay.
It just seems, I want to rewind just a little bit because I think we were, making some, what I would say, simple but profound conclusions. So what you were saying is that we'll talk about them, them, the weevils, the evil weevils.
Yeah, I like that name.
Okay, so
appropriate.
Exactly. A little humor never hurt anyone, especially when dealing with these darker forces on our planet. But so we were talking about how some friends of ours and other people, such as Alfred Weber and other people, come out with disclosing how artificial intelligence, one way of describing it, is interfacing with the human right now. And we were talking about, I'll just paraphrase what you said, was that they have reached a level of sophistication within the technologies now to fine-tune this invasion or this interference to the very level of each individual's DNA. Did I get that right?
Yeah, with the caveat that they haven't just recently tuned that.
No.
It's been around for probably billions of years.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, but what I think has been happening recently is that the efforts were stepped up, that the AI was, or a new level of artificial intelligence was activated because there are so many people waking up now.
Okay. So would you say this, and I know that you and I have looked in different manners and used our own perceptions into the unseen world. We've actually perceived, I can't give locations, but different fields of artificial intelligence type of bots. I know we've seen them coming into the earth. I know we've seen them in, I see them almost as swarms. So I perceive it. So would you say that? Would you say now with the microwaving, the scalar technologies and all of those, and the mapping, the mass mapping and surveillance of each individual, that has conjuncted with that so that we're now getting more directed effects?
Yes, I would say their efforts have been stepped up.
Okay. Yeah. So because, this is now just a little anecdotal material, is that, we work with a lot of people, you and I, from a lot of different, different places on the planet, different backgrounds, different cultures, but we've all had one thing in common, that we've been trying to unravel this mystery and who these manipulators are and how they got here. And most importantly, what we can do to release ourselves and our planet from this hold. So a lot of people that are very sensitive, that have penetrated a lot of this information, are being affected right now. And I've been noticing, reports coming from friends that they're very, very exhausted.
Yes.
That seems to be the primary overriding symptom. Everybody seems to have that, but it's been combined with, problems with the lung, the respiratory system, which could be directly, linked to the spraying of the chemtrailing, the inhalation of toxic substances, and also gut problems. Lots and lots of gut problems. So, I can see that. We could probably, there's plenty out there about, how the effects of GMOs, chemtrails, and all of that for anybody that wants to research. I don't think we need to go into that. But when looking at, you said something, we were just talking casually here, and I said, stop, hold the presses, let me get the recording on. Was a friend of ours who's very, very sensitive came up with the word replicant. and she's suffering a lot right now. So I've used that word myself. We've often called some of the hyperdimensional races mimickers, the technocrats, those that are programming our reality, and now combined with the nanobots and the interface with human, we get the idea of replicant. And what we both kind of pinged on was, well, what is really happening is that underlying every single aspect of our reality that is outside of our own sovereignty is based on fear.
Yes.
Or the covering up of fear.
Absolutely.
Right. And so and it just hit me, it's like, well, this interference field that's actually being beamed at specific people, or they just happen to be in the wrong place, I don't know which, are actually fine-tuned enough that they're replicating the fear fields of the individual. And almost like that becomes to me like a really, really, well, one way you could look at it is that it actually can become a tool for each person to use that, as uncomfortable and horrible as that sounds, to find out where their deepest fears lie.
Absolutely. I mean, pretty much everything can be turned into a tool.
Exactly. Right? So, but what happens is, I see that what happens is that through programs, some of them quite horrific programs that have been run on humans, not just in our day and age, but throughout time, there's some deeply buried triggers within the body memory. So when somebody feels sick, what's the first thing you do? I mean, we have very few, we have trained responses, right? We want to, we resist.
I guess not everybody is as weird as me and think, well,
I know. Or as I am.
How did this happen? What made it happen?
Right. Which is like, the weird will become the new normal. But really, if you look, just, being a good observer, and it doesn't take a lot to observe this, is most people are triggered to want to get rid of the pain immediately, right? Alleviation.
Yes.
They want something that will stop what's happening. They will start imagining worser scenarios. I mean, these are my own observations of myself through different illnesses and things that I've gone through.
I totally agree with that. I mean, they're absolutely identical with mine.
Right. And a distrust of your own body.
Yep.
So if we could reverse that, or, take the counter position and look at it, we could say, oh, like you just said, well, all right, what's here in my field that's allowing this to come through? I don't like to say it that way, because I know people that are under severe duress and very targeted individuals. It's really hard to say that to them, because I know what it feels like to be to be that targeted.
Yeah, I think some of us do know or have experience of being at the receiving end of the targeting.
Right. And yet, I will easily say for myself that all of the challenges that I have had, physical, mental, emotional, all of them, I've had some severe ones, but other people have suffered more severely than I have given me the clues by overcoming that, by really reclaiming myself from that, saying what piece of me is out there being manipulated, what belief am I holding, what is it, what am I seeing here, what am I understanding? I've been able to detect these things now and not get thrown to fear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it comes down, first it comes down to, am I a victim or am I not a victim?
I say that. Yeah.
If I am, then, well, okay, I better start working really hard on myself to get out of the victim mode, no matter what.
Right.
Because, I mean, in terms of linear time, we're running out of time fast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then once you know, or once you decide that you are not a victim, then it comes down to self-responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Are you responsible for your life, or is the system, the powers that be, responsible for your life?
Right.
But personally, I don't like the system. I don't accept the powers that be as powers that be.
Right.
So I know I'm responsible for myself. Whatever I've done, whatever has been done to me, there is a level of responsibility in me.
Right. Right. And I totally agree with you. And I've said it before. It's like, for me, it was a very pragmatic decision. You know, it was an analytical decision at some level.
Yes,
I,
exactly.
I realized that, you know, what do I have to lose by claiming my sovereignty and saying I'm not victim? You know, and I don't understand all of it. And I know a lot of people on a very deep subconscious level can't let go because they've been so abused, right? I mean, they've been so deeply, deeply abused that they just cannot comprehend that
Yeah,
level of cruelty could have been put upon them. And so
exactly.
you look at the perpetrators of that cruelty and you say, this can't be, I didn't choose this. And I don't think we're saying you have to accept you chose it.
No, you know, I mean, having had a background of being subjected to SRA, I can wholeheartedly say I did not choose.
Right.
But that has very little to do with accepting responsibility for yourself, in my mind, at least.
Exactly. And that's the difference, because there's a huge amount of compassion and empathy for anyone that is having, being targeted right now in any way.
Absolutely.
Whether it's through satanic ritual abuse or through mind control techniques, or, you know, the constant bombardment of people's sovereign space by microwaves and other energy weapons. So it becomes very pragmatic. When you say, I am not the victim, you're actually releasing yourself from a very, very powerful tool or meme that they've imposed upon us. They need to keep us feeling like we're victims. Because if you're a victim, then you have to find an authority outside of yourself.
Exactly, and that's where self-responsibility comes in.
Right, right.
It's following the victim steps very, very closely.
Yeah, and it's like many, many things I see right now. There is a fine line, right?
There is. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like we need to walk between two worlds right now, and being able to hold both of them and see both of them. Like you can, the mind was not, has been actually split so that we have to see right and left or dark and light paradigms. So I think what we're doing is we're making cross links. So both things can be true. You didn't choose to have your parents victimize you through horrific, abuse mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the same time, you can still choose that you're not a victim.
Exactly.
Those things are not, they're not independent. I mean, they can both be true. And, you know, these are the paradoxes that, you know, our modern way of thinking and the entrainment we've had through language has kept us from being able to make those cross links and not see that there's no conflict there. In my mind, there's no conflict there, but I had to resolve it for myself.
I suppose the biggest and most significant step is that very first one, that if you see yourself as a victim, accept that this is how you see yourself, and then you can do something about it. But unless, you know, and while you're denying it, and it does come down to denial, really, nothing is going to change. I mean, look for truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because it's only ever that first step that makes it so bloody impossible for most people.
Right. So you said a word, and I was just going to ask you, maybe we could speak of it a little bit, because we have, if we just stay on two themes right now, one is fear, the other is victim, right? And they're like a veneer over both of those, and the word above that is denial, right? So a lot of people deny they're a victim. but they don't realize that their actions are always saying they're a victim. And on
Yeah.
another level, there are those who deny they are fearful, but their actions again show that they are fearful. So how would we as an individual that can't see that, how would we know that we're acting out of a victimhood? You know, how do we see
Good
ourselves?
question.
We don't put ourselves in front of a mirror, right? And
Basically, yeah.
you know, and you know, there's so many books out there that really help people, and many speakers all over. I would just say the first thing you have to see is, what am I projecting on another, and what is my world throwing back at me?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to want the absolute truth, because looking at yourself when you're in denial of whatever can be very painful. I'm speaking from experience here, as you can imagine. Well, you know, but until you get to the point where you want truth and nothing else, because that is all that counts at the end of the day. Until you want that truth, you're not going to get it. You will always continue to make excuses. And that's what it comes down to. You don't want to see the truth, you're going to make excuses.
Right. So excuses is one way that we can see ourselves, like putting off something we could do today for tomorrow. Those are types of excuses. Or, you know, I can't do that because so-and-so didn't let me, or I can't, you know, I'd really like to write a book, but I don't have time. All those things are excuses, really. And I just want to, you know, step right up. And when you say, I want the truth no matter where it leads me, and, you know, we both have adopted that as one of our bylines. What we're really afraid of, in my own journey has shown me, is that we're afraid of our own divinity. It's not that we're, you know, the shadows in the way are having to go through actions and unpleasantries. But in the end, when we want the truth, is that we're going to be looking straight at ourselves.
Yes, and that's also the only way how we regain our power.
Right. And, you know, I mean, I can't remember who the quote is at the same time. You know, it's like, that's what man is really afraid of.
Exactly.
He's not, you know, the shadows and the things that go bump in the night, and the you know, I mean, they're out there. You know, there's demonics, there's artificial intelligence. We started speaking of that. There's a dark hand intelligent field that is actually an invasive species on our planet.
Of course they're all out there, but, you know, I mean, I'm sure you've been there as well. Once all you want is truth, you can see them quite clearly.
Right.
And do they scare you?
No.
Well,
no, they don't. They have. I mean, they've terrorized me in the past, so I'm not.
Yeah.
I won't. But do I now? And, you know, I'm, you know, in every way I can, wherever I am right now, I'm finding, you know, ways to speak my truth.
Exactly.
Because like you said, we're running out of time here. Okay, you know, the mechanisms of time are actually ending. And that's a whole nother topic maybe we'll get into later or a different time. But really what we are, and this is what I like to help people right now that are confronting difficulties, is that find your own inner compass, and we're navigators, okay? It's not like we have to go out there and fight, you know, 1,000 battles for, you know, it's like we need to navigate, and that takes a lot of.
Exactly. And I think that's really, really important. There is no need to fight.
Right.
All you have to do is withdraw from whatever you don't want to happen.
Right. Disengage yourself from it. And you find, I mean, this is where it gets hard and where it becomes very real for a lot of people. If you find yourself in a relationship, in an activity, in a job, if out of fear you've depended on a source of income that is actually damaging our planet and taking away from your children's future, and however you want to see that, you know, those are the choices that one actually is confronting right now. They're very real choices. And
Absolutely.
so, you know, it's like the courage it takes to take that first step, you said, right? To withdraw consent, right? To not be ruled by the almighty dollar, yen, Dutch mark, franc, euro, fiat money system. I mean, this is huge.
It is.
It's huge. And at least, because we are all still exchanging energy right now when we exchange currency, have the consciousness that goes with it. You know,
Yeah.
don't be a slave to it. You know, I mean, a lot of it is just shifting our conscious awareness. But how do you know if you're a slave to it? Because if you fear the lack of it, if you fear the lack of it, you're a slave to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So those are the inner analysis, and I know you've been experiencing, and so many have, is that we are being literally uplifted and bombarded right now. Bombarded, maybe is not the right word.
You could call it that.
It could feel bombardment to some people, but we are being, I mean, it could be, because it's actually challenging people to let down the false paradigm.
Oh, yeah,
But it
absolutely.
also is uplifting us. And so that means that when you let go of a tether that's holding you into an old way of being, thought, belief, fear, denial, when you let go of that, when you just let go, you know, then all the help you have is around you right now to help lift you up to the next step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, don't hold on to your own chains.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so, and yet it goes to, you know, the more we do that, the more subtle the levels become, the more in tuned we have to be, the more we have to really be the modulators of our own realities.
Absolutely, but I found it, well, I can only speak for myself, but I would be surprised if you, for example, you yourself went through the same, that it becomes quite natural.
Yes. Yes.
And after a while, we probably can't even imagine that there's any other way.
Right. Exactly. And it is like that. It really is. Somebody, I was just speaking to another friend of mine that called, you know, she calls it the 51%, right? It's like when you unshackled yourself enough from what binds you, you hit that one magic 1% more, and then all of a sudden, the universe now can start operating through you.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And when that starts going, then you really know. I mean, you know, people say,
You know, because, you know, miracles start to happen everywhere on every level.
Yeah, synchronicities, you know, you actually recognize that you're not operating out of fear any longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have that inner knowing that you're not. And, you know, so anything that comes into my field right now that's feels like a little bit of anxiety or, you know, or maybe even might say outside thoughts that aren't my own. Sometimes I'll pick them up, and they feel like they're in my head.
Yep.
But because they're not all meshed up with who I am anymore, I'm able to feel them and deal with them.
Yes, that's a kind of gradual and natural process or progress.
Right.
Once you stop holding on to your own shackles and you want to see truth, because eventually it doesn't matter anymore whether it hurts your own feelings. This is where the whole ego thing comes in. Integrate your ego. Don't deny it. Don't throw it out of the window, because in this physical reality, you have to have ego.
Mm-hmm.
At least in this current vibration we are in. I have no idea what it's like, you know, once we kind of pass that stage, are still physical, but no longer have ego issues.
Right.
And that's probably the toughest step for anyone who wants to walk that path. But I can promise you, once you let go, once you accept your ego as an integral part of being human, your feelings don't get hurt when someone tells you you look ugly and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
I understand. I do. And I mean, certainly my life has been a very arduous process at times of getting out of the control of let's call it my distorted ego. Okay. because, you know,
Yeah,
we have an identity, right? And to be
absolutely. And it's, I mean, the whole system is geared towards keeping that ego alive.
right. And we come in with memories and all sorts of markers on us also, you
Yeah.
know. So we're automatically already projecting a reality from the minute we're born here of what's going to be happening to us, what we're going to suffer, what we're going to go through. And yet, you know, recently with myself, I was like, well, no, I have no problem with my ego at this moment. My ego is my personal identity, how it expresses itself in this reality. But because I know myself as spirit now, that's the overriding identity that I am has.
Exactly.
And so she, or her spirit, occupies this vehicle. And yeah, my ego still gets bent around a little bit and whines, you know? And then I say, come over here, ego, right?
Hey, you wouldn't be human if that weren't the case, right?
Right, exactly. Let's get this relationship straight here, okay? You know, I love you. You're my little child inside of me, right? You know, but we have a job to do, ego. So, you know, this, you know, you can take the back seat for a while and learn, right? I don't know, whatever it works for anybody, you know, that's just has the current way that I'm dealing with it. So,
That's a pretty good way.
I find also it keeps me laughing a lot, you know, it's when you can look at that ego really for really what it is, really what
Exactly, yes.
you know, and you're not having that much of an identity with that ego. You know, it's there for a reason, but you aren't saying, oh, I'm just that, right? So you're right. If somebody doesn't like me, rejects me, is upset with me because I'm being who I am, all those things happen around me, as they do all of us.
Yeah.
You know, and on the other hand too, you know, I take that as a lesson also to how I can more fine tune my own energies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But that's the beauty of wanting truth, because you're looking at it from a detached point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and you're always looking for ways to better yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because the ego isn't quite so involved anymore.
Right. So yeah, better, or you know, I guess the keys that come in, or the words that come in, and you know, are learning how to let that truck go by. You know, the keys that come that we have, or having the master of ourselves. You know, being aware enough, full enough, present enough that we're not being driven by reactivities, overblown emotions, big dramas, fears, denials, victimhood, that we see clearly. And I think at some point you already said too, is that we become more natural in it. So it's not this arduous process of, oh, it's the right thing to do and I'm doing it right. Am I not doing it right? No, we're actually so in touch with the intelligence field around
You
us.
sense it. You sense what is right, and I think eventually you reach a stage where you don't even think of doing or accepting the so-called wrong.
Right, right, right. And even I find that even if let's say I didn't hit it exactly right, you know, I made a boo-boo. Whatever.
We do it often.
Yeah, we make boo-boos, right? I find that once I recognize that boo-boo, right, without the drama, without the, you know, I don't put any more weight or mass on it, but it's recognition of it, it rectifies the situation. And I've watched that play out many times recently.
It just dissolves.
Yeah. And so the other
person dissolves.
Yeah. So maybe I affected somebody else, but by me tuning that, they're also released from it. So freedom is a two-way street, you know?
Absolutely.
Right? Or well, that's just in a dynamic of two people, but it's beautiful. Thank you. So recap where we said really where we're all looking at when we look into that deep, deep, deep void of the unknown. At the bottom, and the place we'll break through is fear.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And since we started off with the mention of artificial intelligence, we should maybe bring it back to that subject.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, and keep our talk a little short today. But yes. So coming back to, I know you and I and others have been exploring this subject rather studiously and intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have sat on a panel. We were in contact with others that are looking at this with us, and we're looking at it with them. And I call this that's happening right now a virulent strain. And I said that not because that's what I thought. It was just like one of those words that came into my vocabulary. You know, it's like, so what are we looking at right now? What aspect of this type of we know that we have black goo. We know that we have genetic manipulation. We know that there are all sorts of nanobots being released on the planet right now. We know there's DNA manipulation at the level of DNA. And
we suspect it's all interconnected.
Exactly. And overriding that, you know, I mean, really, if one looks at that and really studies it, you see that the agenda is to turn the human organic organism into a cyborg.
Well, yes, I mean, we know that's their agenda.
Right.
I mean, that's been on the table for quite a while.
Right. So what about those that are ultra sensitive that have been victims of a lot of trauma in this life that are targeted individuals? And, you know, some of them are just random. I mean, it's like, you know, it's so interesting. I know some of the people that have been the most targeted have very specific reasons that they've been taking these people, these souls for many, many generations and lifetimes. And then some people are just being randomly targeted.
No, I very much doubt it's random.
No.
I mean, in this reality, we supposed to know absolutely nothing about the original souls.
Mm-hmm.
So when a soul comes in from perhaps a different reality, a different universe, a different galaxy, they know exactly at what time that soul incarnates into a human body.
Mm-hmm.
And they can direct where a specific soul goes to, into which family that soul incarnates.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think anything is random in that respect.
No. Yeah, I'm sitting, you know, like oftentimes when we'll be talking to each other, my consciousness starts exploring, and this is something we spoke of, I guess, yesterday. And as a good friend says, all counterintentions can be turned to good.
Exactly.
In some way, I have really come to visualize and understand that this mechanism, this overriding, I don't know, miasma. Okay, this dark miasma that's in our planet and in our solar system,
Mm-hmm.
and actually out there. And we've explored different parts of the cosmos. It seems to have a function though, and
yeah.
Right, and I feel like this is just for myself, my own inner journey. But I think it's shared with others, is that I realize that for me to be able to make the next leap, let's say, or the next jump in consciousness, or the next jump in evolution as a soul, not only do I have to recall as much of myself as I possibly can, and that comes in conceptual downloads. Sometimes it's lifetimes, sometimes it's just conceptual downloads, but I can feel pieces of me coming back, working now within my own soul, sovereign soul, my own connection with my own spirit. But I also see that this darker force won't be totally free. I won't be free from it until I reach some aspect of myself, as if I were well, you could use the term of a chrysalis, the metamorphosis of my own being.
Right.
So be an aspect of that. Like, in other words, the controllers, actually have a purpose as controllers.
Of course they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here.
Right. Try to tell that to the world.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can only obviously speak from my own point of view, but my understanding is that absolutely nothing happens by accident. So if a parasite happens to look like they're taking over at least this universe, not only this galaxy, but probably this universe, then there has to be a reason for it. Yeah, I suppose that's all I can say about that at the moment.
Right. Well, I'm sure we'll continue to explore this, because just speaking words is not really adequate. It does plant some seeds for others maybe that might hear this to contemplate. I certainly know that the first time I hit upon that myself in my own consciousness, I had an immediate dismissal of it. But I've also learned that too. Whatever reactivity I have, whether it's dismissing something, if it's a sharp dismissal, or even if it's an embracing of something, like I feel compelled to embrace it.
Right.
Both of those responses actually get my attention now pretty acutely. This is almost like saying, okay, well, there's something there that I need to be in.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you. I mean, thanks for the speaking of it, because I do feel like sharing and talking things through certainly helps me go a little deeper into my own comprehension of this.
I agree. It helps me too a great deal, and thank you.
Oh, oh, good. Well, thank you. And yeah, that was an interesting turn.
It was a bit, yes.
Okay, love. Well, I'll see you later.